Irontomb, the final boss of the Amphoreus saga. One final hurdle broken up across two battles. Two battles that I want to complete using only Remember's Trailblazer. The second of which contains, quite possibly the dumbest, yet somehow profoundly appropriate for Amphoreus, thing I've seen in Honkai Star Rail. Let's just get right into it. Oh, Cyrene, why must you force yourself into my party? To make matters worse, if she falls in battle, I lose. I already have the superior version of Cyrene as my sidekick, who murders all enemies for me and doesn't cause a loss if she kicks the bucket. Like all times a story character is forced into my party, Cyrene will only be using basic attack and we will not activate her ultimate. Irontomb has an awful lot of annoying mechanics, biggest of which is Amphorean hatred. Should this number reach 100%, the battle instantly ends in defeat. That's 3 ways the battle can end in a loss. The other 2 being if either Cyrene or Blazer Dono falls. That said, it's a pretty straightforward fight that ends up being awfully close, even if it looks like I have a sizable lead. With one use of the battle's unique ability, Cyrene swoops in to save the day by knocking the Amphorean hatred counter down a notch. Having reached this phase, if I take 1 or 2 more turns, I win, because the battle will end to play a cutscene. Just like that, the battle against Irontomb is... No, I can't accept this. Having to manually receive aid from Cyrene? Normally, I allow myself to use the unique battle abilities, but somehow, this one feels so... wrong. Guys, am I being petty? Yes, I'm being petty. We're doing this without Cyrene's help, because Amphoreus only ever needed one Cyrene, and her name is M.E.M. Why do I always make things harder for myself? Suddenly, this battle turns into a race, and a victory that took 4 attempts to reach is now in the double digits.
I'll go first. I'm gonna cry.
Anything! We'll write the saga's ending together.
Like a gosh darn action hero, stopping the bomb when there's only 1 second left. M.E.M, I know I pick on you a lot, and sometimes tease you with cute nicknames like Murder Furball, but I trust you got this. Cut all the wires at once, and bring home that W.
Progress of Aeronova has been interrupted?
Like any good final boss, Irontomb has more than one form. After an hour of cutscenes all about Cyrene, it's time for the true final battle against Irontomb. The same rules apply. I won't be using the battle's unique ability, and Cyrene, you're only using basic attack, even if it is permanently enhanced for this battle, though it doesn't give me a skill point. So that's different, as are many other things with this fight. Look at Irontomb's health bar. That's not the usual percentage-based bar we often see, except it's totally the same. And they just dressed it up for this fight, along with modifying everyone's damage output. I love you, Murder Furball, but you ain't hitting 500,000 damage in normal battles.
I'll wait for you. Oops, an accidental nap.
Interesting. Casterus's global passive triggers for this battle, even though I obviously have never pulled for her. Must be because trial versions of all Chrysos Heirs were added to my party.
Oh, hold on a second. I told you already. We are the ones who will move forward.
In the month of strife.
Still, that's a loss.
I scatter elation throughout the dawning day!
And another, but somehow I'm farther from winning? That's weird.
In the month of strife.
I become the glory of the
Okay, what is going on? Something is not right. Allow me to explain. Remember back in Amphoreus Part 1, when I was battling Nikador, Titan of Strife, I said the following. We begin with a basic attack. This looks like the wrong move, as does allowing the enemy to hit me while I have a fully charged ultimate, but I assure you that it is intentional for reasons that are far too lengthy to get into right now. It's time for me to explain. Please note, the following is based entirely on observation. I do not dig into game files or code. Therefore, this may not be exactly how the game handles what I'm about to explain, but it'll still serve to enlighten you about a phenomenon that indeed does exist in Star Rail. People who know more, feel free to explain properly in the comments. Honkai Star Rail is not a truly random, turn-based RPG. Maybe you've noticed this during your time with the game. When playing a full party with tons of stuff happening all at once, in double speed, with status effects and buffs galore, it can be difficult to uncover this truth. But when playing a single character, it's plain as day. When you enter a battle, the game calculates every single possibility in advance and stores this. And so long as you never leave the battle, that is, you pause and hit restart instead of retreating, the calculation does not change. Let's take a look at an example. Here I'm on my main account with a team of Destruction Trailblazer and Barbara. I'm inside Divergent Universe because every battle in this mode has a restart button. We're up against a Dream Jolt Troops Sweet Gorilla. Trailblazer is equipped to have low crit rate, although some blessings from the hunt are giving him a small boost every action. Still, it doesn't matter because everything was already calculated the moment I entered battle. I want his crit rate to be low to illustrate that fact. You're about to see him hit and miss crits on the same attacks every single time I restart the battle via the restart button. Also, since none of the enemies will be weakness broken, the Trailblazer's bonus effect, a Destructing Glance, does not take effect. First, Barbara uses basic attack. The gorilla will then attack Trailblazer. Next, Trailblazer will use basic attack and he will not hit a crit. Blessings will let him act again, using basic attack and hitting a crit. Blessings will again let him attack, another basic attack that crits. Trailblazer gets attacked by a hound, and we stop here. Let's bundle this set of actions together and call it a path. Now, I use the restart button and retrace that path exactly the same way. Barbara uses basic attack, the gorilla attacks Trailblazer. Trailblazer uses basic attack. No crit. Trailblazer uses basic attack. A critical hit. Trailblazer uses basic attack. Another critical hit. The hound attacks Trailblazer. And if I restart again, playing the same actions in the same order, the path turns out exactly the same. But what about those hunt blessings? In addition to turn advance, they give crit rate. Maybe I'm just getting lucky. Examining the Trailblazer's stats each turn, we can see that on the first attack, he has 17% crit rate. On the second attack, he has 23% crit rate. On the third attack, he has 35% crit rate. You can see this isn't a case of luck, as these crit rates are still quite low, getting the same results 3 times in a row via luck at these percentages. Not likely. Now, watch what happens when I change to using Trailblazer's AoE skill instead of basic attack. I'll open the menu between each of Trailblazer's attacks so you can see the crit rate is no different than when using basic attack. Barbara starts with basic attack. Trailblazer is attacked by the gorilla. We're at 17% crit rate. Trailblazer uses skill. This time, we get a crit hit on the right hound, but on the gorilla, it misses. This matches with our basic attack path. Now, we're at 23% crit rate. Trailblazer uses skill. A crit hit on the gorilla. The right hound is defeated. Concerning our main target, the gorilla, this also matches the basic attack path. For our final attack, we're at 35% crit rate, just like with our final basic attack previously. Things have played out relatively the same, so it's natural to think that this next skill use will be a critical hit against the gorilla. But it's not. If I play out this path using Trailblazer's skill again and again, the result will always be the same. If I use the restart button and retrace the first path using basic attacks, that one will also always play out the same. So long as I do not fully leave the battle, these two paths, and any other that I traverse, are set in stone. In other words, a battle in Star Rail is like a giant tree diagram. You can follow it one way repeatedly, but the moment you decide to deviate from your path, everything that comes next will be different. When the restart button is not available, none of this matters. But when it is available, I take advantage of that. It allows me to turn difficult battles into puzzles to solve, trial and error, experimentation of different possibilities. And if I can't get something to work, I can just leave the battle, re-enter, and have a whole new calculation to redo all those steps with. Given the Trailblazers recently revealed powers connecting to finality, it's pretty fitting that the game is like this. Going back to the Nikador battle, the reason I held my ultimate until after Nikador's opening attacks is because it resulted in a crit from my ultimate. In the calculation for that battle's instance, using ultimate right as the battle began resulted in ultimate not critting. All this is to say that when I continuously do the same actions in the same order without ever leaving the battle fully, the fight against Irontomb should always be the same. But clearly, the health bar of Irontomb tells a different story. It doesn't make any sense. It goes against everything I know about the game. So, I ask again, what is going on here? The truth? The Chrysos Heirs apparently want Irontomb to succeed, because much like it grated on many of us just how much yapping they all did in the Amphoreus story, while they are yapping during this fight, Irontomb receives a hidden damage reduction buff. A very big damage reduction buff. No, I am not kidding. That I sometimes forget to wait until they finish talking, so that I have clean battle audio for the video, is the only difference between the fights. What sucks even more? It doesn't go both ways. Irontomb still deals full damage to player characters while the yapping is on screen. Okay, so stop forgetting to wait until they shut up, I hear you say. And you are correct. That works. But not for Murder Furball, who attacks automatically and is the source of pretty much all of Remember's Trailblazer's damage. When her punch barrage happens at the same time the yapping begins, you can see the result. Pausing the game also pauses voiceovers, and one cannot bring up the status screen during automatic ally actions or during enemy actions. So neither of those can be done to wait it out. Yapping happens when Irontomb's health falls below quarter thresholds. Below 100%, then 75%, 50%, and 25%. If M.E.M is lined up to attack automatically after Irontomb falls below any one of those thresholds, I lose. This is the biggest problem. And now on to the other problems. Irontomb likes it to be their turn. After receiving 6 attacks, Irontomb will cut in line and go on the offensive, regardless of what turn order shows. Irontomb has a damage hard stop at 50% health, which is when this number is 50,000. Even if you somehow got their health to 50,001, then slugged them with 1,000,000 damage, this number wouldn't fall below 50,000. That's because 50,000 is the trigger for Cyrene's scripted attack, which then drops them into the low 40,000s. The two things working in my favor are that when Irontomb's gold and silver devices, their mythos and logos, are put into the down state, the boss takes extra damage from attacks. The gold device, the mythos, also grants me turn advance when it is down. Additionally, this ability in the turn order gives me a free ultimate every time it shows up. That's very handy. To defeat Irontomb, I'm going to need more firepower. Given how the boss's turn advance works, each attack I get is valuable and needs to be hitting like a truck. Also, Cyrene and her pitiful attacks eat into the countdown for Irontomb cutting in line. More proof that M.E.M is the superior form. Seriously, this may be the worst bodyguard duty I've dealt with. I had used Relic Recon to bolster my preservation build, because it happened before I fully tested Remembrance Trailblazer. I greatly regret this. Thus, it's back to the planar ornament mines of Simulated Universe. Besides Relic Recon, this old-fashioned method is the only way for an account of low equilibrium level to obtain 5-star planar ornaments. I cannot believe how much of a breeze World 5 is now. I made a whole video about struggling through this in preparation to battle Phantilia, and now Remembrance Trailblazer tears it apart without breaking a sweat. I reckon I could even clear World 6. Oh, that looks promising, and got out of the mines quickly. But I still need more. The only thing left to power up? My light cone, through superimposing. I think this is the first time I've shown Forgotten Hall in an episode. Actually had completed a few floors of it already, but it needs to be pushed farther to reach the 200 currency needed for another copy of Victory in a Blink.
Deja vu.
Like this.
Maybe I could push farther, but it's not necessary. I've reached the 200 fragments needed. With this light cone at 4 out of 5 superimposes, my relics and stats at rather absurd numbers for a level 40 character, it's time for the final attempt at Irontomb. Though, you know what? Maybe I should grind out the last available power boost. If you didn't know, the bathtub in the Trailblazer's room gives buffs. There's a new bath soak available in Amphoreus, and it grants Memo Sprites a 10% damage boost. That's much better than the 10% ultimate boost I've been using, since Memo Sprite damage would apply to the Punch Barrage and ultimate. How does one get the bath soak? Catch all golden nymphs. Solve all golden nymph riddles on every map in Amphoreus. If you're either screaming at your screen, or perhaps wincing like you've just bit into a lemon, then congratulations, you have information I really wish I had before I went bug catching. Yeah, I may have wasted a whole lot of time on this, because I went down the map navigation, from top to bottom, and upon reaching the bottom, on the map that leads to the Irontomb battle, I found out you can't catch the last 5 or so nymphs because they are in areas of the map that are only unlocked after defeating Irontomb. This right here was my exact reaction, silence and all, as I stared blankly at my computer screen. Let's just go kick Irontomb's rear. With every upgrade combined, it still is not enough. What is missing? What is the final key to this puzzle? If I take a step back and wait, surely I'll see the answer? Yet, never did I expect that to be the answer. No, I'm not being purposely vague here. I'm serious. That is the answer. Stepping back and waiting is the final key, not figuratively, literally. This skill use by Trailblazer is one half of the key to winning. The other half, that's in the paws of my trusty sidekick, who will purposely waste her turn advance by using it on herself. But it's not a key that unlocks. No, we're using it to lock away not 1, but 2 attacks against Irontomb, thus allowing the heavier hitting ones, M.E.M's Punch Barrage and Ultimate, to have more uses. Because remember, this ability in the turn order gives me a free ultimate. Additionally, because of how this plan rearranges turn order, and because knocking out this gold device grants me a turn back, we land at the following result. My next attack will cause Irontomb to cut in line, as you can see, it's already Irontomb's turn next anyways. When Irontomb's regular turn and turn advance overlap, they merge into a single turn instead of granting the boss 2 turns. While this also causes the gold and silver devices to fully heal, things you'd normally want in a down state for that juicy damage bonus, it doesn't matter because of how close to the 50% health mark we are. Overflow damage would be capped and lost.
Oh, hold on a second. I told you already. We are the ones who will move forward.
Did you just interrupt Blazer Dono, Mighty? Screw you!
Remember that.
This moment into eternity!
In the month of cultivation, I turn into the ridges and peaks of permanence.
Is this how it feels to be in sync? Remember that.
I can't believe I was able to be as incredibly petty as I was about this battle and still win. I didn't want to rely on Cyrene's unique battle ability. I didn't want to use a prayer machine, 2 things that undoubtedly would have made it a breeze. Yet, relying only on Trailblazer and Mem, I managed to finish the fight. Might have taken over 40 attempts, but hey, who's counting? I am. I'm counting. So glad it's over. If I had to listen to the Chrysos Heirs spout self-righteous nonsense one more time, I may have had to sick Mem on them. No, not that one. This one. Anyways, nothing like a nice warm soak in my new golden bath before we wrap up Amphoreus. Figured since I already did most of the work, I'd finish all those nymph riddles and unlock the bath soak. A 10% damage boost for my lovable murder furball, which will come in handy for our, for real this time, true final battle. The solo against Irontomb via Echo of War. Clearing the Amphoreus story got me a new trace for Remembrance Trailblazer, giving Blazer Dono access to an AoE attack after ultimate is used. It also got me a completely busted Remembrance Light Cone and the items to max superimpose it. Later, Finon, hello Mem. If only this hat weren't locked behind a time-limited top-up event from version 3.7, I could become the ultimate Mem fan. Bummer. Alrighty, win or lose, I want to send Amphoreus off with a spectacular bang, which means I'm going full power right off the bat.
Let's try it this other way.
Did that just do twice the damage of my ultimate? I mean, I know he was in a weakened state, but...
Remember that. Like the saga's ending together. Together, we can do anything! This story is as we've written.
Oh my word! Now it did thrice the damage. There is 0 chance I lose here.
Saga's ending together. We can do anything! As written! I'm on it. We'll write the saga's ending together.
Trust me, Miss Murder Furball. Blazer Dono wouldn't say this to just anyone. Please, join my party. Together, we can conquer the universe. And with that, Amphoreus has been fully completed using only Remembrance Trailblazer. This is Musashi, and Blazer Dono, and Murder Furball, signing off. Till next time.